Hey guys, I'm Chef D-Max. Welcome back to the kitchen. Today we're gonna do a simple side dish, rosemary potatoes, something you can use for a lot of different things at home. So stay with me, click subscribe if you're not doing that, give me a thumbs up if you like the video, and ring that bell and I'll send you new stuff coming up. I'll see you back in a second. Okay guys, I'm Chef D-Max, welcome back. Today, rosemary potatoes. Super simple dish. Now what I wanna do while I heat this up, and I'm gonna talk to you about the potatoes in a second, I've got one whole onion here, okay? I wanna heat up my pan. Okay, I'm gonna turn that high. I'm gonna use cast iron on this because that's gonna get us with something like potatoes and onions, it's nice to get a good heavy char on there. So with this onion, I wanna just cut it in half. Now, you could cut the onion smaller if you like. I'm going to pull out the center here. Sometimes the centers get a little bit, normally they're fine, but mine, if you ever have an older onion, like mine looks like it's a little older, so this center piece kind of gets a little bit off colored, and I just kind of like to cut it out when I have that. Now from this, I just cut it straight down, and these are slices. Now if we wanted to dice it, you could dice it to have the potatoes smaller, but the onion smaller with the potatoes, but I kind of want them to be present with these potatoes. So that's why I'm doing this kind of cut down slice like this, all right? So this is really simple. We just do that like this. Now I've got a half a piece of garlic in there. I'm gonna throw the garlic in the pan with the oil just to perfume it, and we'll take it out when we're done. We're not gonna actually eat that. We're just gonna give it a little bit of garlic flavor, okay? So I'm gonna let this kind of heat up. Okay, it's starting now. The garlic's starting to sizzle a little. I'm gonna leave that down, and I'm gonna put the onions all around to the outside here. But I'm gonna let that onion kind of do its work on the oil, and then I'll yank it out when the time comes. So I'll lay these onions around. Again, leave the garlic sitting there, perfuming that oil in the center. Okay. And meanwhile, I'll let the onions start to kind of release. And right now what they're doing is they're releasing their juice. So whenever you want to kind of slow, if you're cooking something where you want to slow the process of the sauteing down, you can always add onions in, and that will do that. That'll slow it down a little bit. What I'm going to do here, take this garlic piece and just roll it around in here. Right, and then I'm going to move my onions around. Okay, I just want a tiny bit of garlic flavor. Now, if you like a lot of garlic, you could do chopped garlic, and I would add it later. Or click this video above here, and you'll see my my garlic confit recipe, and that you would add in towards the end of this. So it's a lot easier to handle it because you don't have to kind of wait and burn it and be all disappointed. You can just have the garlic already cooked in olive oil. You take a teaspoon of that at the end of the dish and throw it in, and just to warm it throughout, and it makes such a nice flavor. So with this, I want to add a little bit of salt. I don't want to overkill it with salt because we salted our potatoes and all of that stuff, so everything has to match. So here, I've got some beautiful baby potatoes. See how nice these are? Look how little they are, right? These baby potatoes, now, the biggest thing about potatoes is that right when I get them from the store, I like to, like a baby potato like this or a little cream of potatoes, I like to cook them right away. So I always have them ready in the fridge to eat with different things. And then I can always take out a small amount, use them, and I have them. What do I mean by that? Cook them ahead. Because baked potatoes, you don't do that, right? And those kind of things. But small potatoes, baby potatoes, the best way to cook them is put them in a pot, like these potatoes. I put these in a pot with water, cold water on top, salt, and I put them on a burner, and I let those really saute hard, and then, excuse me, I'm hearing this saute here, and I'm thinking saute hard. I let them boil hard for about 2 minutes. After they boil hard for about, especially tiny ones like this, for about 2 minutes, and then just turn it off and leave it in the water. So you brought the water to a boil with the potatoes in them and a little salt, Put in whatever flavorings you want in there. You want to put some leaves of bay leaves or oregano or something in there, you could do that. It's fine. You can put garlic in the water. But what you want to do is put those on the stove, bring it to a boil. Once it boils for 2 minutes at a fast boil, turn it off, move it off the heat, and let it cool in the liquid. About an hour later, when it's cool in the liquid, the potatoes will be just like this, where they're perfectly cooked through. So if you cut these, you can see these beautiful things are, they're ready to eat, okay? I like to keep them at that point. If it's a bigger creamer, let it boil for about 3 to 4 minutes, okay? Now, my onions now are getting nicely caramelized, right? You can see that. And I want to get those really kind of nicely browned a little before I add my potatoes in. Now the potatoes you can decide to use whole, you can cut them in half. These ones are really pretty, kind of the flesh of them, so I might cut them in half a little bit to get a nice flavor going throughout. So I'm going to cut these in half and I'm going to let these onions cook for a little bit longer, and I'll see you back in a second. Guys, I'm back and we've got these potatoes almost cut all the way here. There we go. Now I've got all my potatoes cut, right? And look at my onions. These things are looking really nice. Some of them are gotten a little bit browned, right? What we've done is we've lost all that water in the onion. That's what we're trying to get rid of, okay? Is that beautiful water that's in there. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull this garlic out. You can see that brown piece of garlic. I'm going to pull that out, okay, because we don't want somebody to accidentally eat a big chunk of garlic, even though some people would love to eat that, right? People who love garlic. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little oil in the center. I use a little grapeseed oil with this, you guys. It needs to be like a low burning oil. And then I'm just putting leaves of rosemary from my garden. See these leaves? These are rosemary stems. You guys should plant these. If you live anywhere in the South, I mean, I'm living down in Florida, so we got, nice weather year round for planting, but even up, anywhere where it's not snowing right now, rosemary is going to be growing outside, and it's like a bush. It never really goes away. And look, you can see how much rosemary I'm putting in there. I'm not being cheap with it. Why? Because I think there's nothing better than like cooked rosemary like this. So I like to saute it like this. Get that. You got to get it a little crispy, because if you don't get it crispy, the leaves kind of tend to be a little chewy. But once you get them crispy, they're beautiful. So I let those saute for a second. And I'm going to add in my onions to that. And I'm going to really let these kind of saute together. Okay, and once we do that, now we're going to be toasting this. That's what we're looking to do. Toast this rosemary really nice. Okay. And once the rosemary is toasted, then we're going to add our potatoes in and continue to cook this dish. So there we are with that. I'm going to put a little pepper in there too. We're going to wait to put the rest of the salt at the end. Okay, so when I put the potatoes in the water, when I initially boil them, I always put some salt too, like a teaspoon of salt, because you always want to get like the salt inside of the potato itself. So never just put it in just cold water, just give it some flavor, right? And then, because what happens when the potato is cooking, it actually draws moisture, it lets its juices out, but it draws that moisture back in from the liquid in there, the water. And so it's filling itself with whatever the water flavor is. So if you put salt in there, it's going to bring salt inside the potato too. Okay, so that's why it's super important. Now, I'm going to put my potatoes on here. Okay, so I just lay all these potatoes in here. Now, once I've used the grapeseed oil for that, once I get to this point where I put the potatoes in, and I want to cook them a little bit more. Now I'm going to put some nice extra virgin olive oil. Probably a nice tablespoon on there, okay? I'm just going to give it a nice olivey flavor. Rosemary, olive, potatoes, onions, all of those flavors that you can't help but to love, right? And then the way that I'm going to finish this is with a little bit of butter. Because butter is going to it's going to brown a little and give us a little of that kind of nutty butter texture on the potatoes too, which you need. You can do without it, but it's really nice with it. Okay, so I'm gonna let these potatoes cook and get a little crispy. I'm gonna give them, they're already cooked through, so you can't really mess this up. I just like to put a little char on them. So I'm gonna let these char for about a minute or two, and I'm gonna show you what they look like. So I'll see you back in a second. Okay guys, I've let this cook for a second. I'm gonna try one really quick, see where we are with flavor. Really nice. One thing it needs, a little bit more salt. Potatoes take a lot of salt. They're like a tomato. They, you know, they never taste good unless you've got a good amount of salt on there. And everybody freaks out about salt, but salt's okay to use in the right ways. Whenever you're using raw product, you always need salt. My friend used to always call a person that had no personality a potato with no salt. If that makes any sense to you. You might know some of those people yourself, but it's such a great saying, right? Because there's nothing worse and more boring than a person or a potato with no salt. So I added about a tablespoon of butter in this, you saw. I'm gonna let that melt down. I don't want to stir it yet. I just want it to let it brown there. It's gonna brown quickly. I actually want to add a little bit more pepper on there. You can't really have enough pepper on there too. Potatoes, you know, this is a very simple dish. Rosemary, butter, a little bit of olive oil, potatoes, and salt and pepper, right? But the butter, salt, and pepper, you know, these things are what's adding the flavor. The rosemary, so it's adding the flavor. Now you can see how my butter is starting to brown like that. That's what I want. See, it's frothing up. The milk solids in there are kind of melting and browning in this pan. And that brown, that's going to give these amazing flavors. Once it browns, I see what's starting to brown. Before it burns, what I'll do is I'll stir it in. And now we've got that flavor. Now it's done almost, right? It is done. You can see, look at some of these pieces of potato. Look at this particular piece right here, right? You've got a couple pieces are white, like this. A couple pieces are, let me see if I can show you that. Whoops. Yeah. So you can see. This one got nice and golden, this one didn't. That's fine. That's what's beautiful about this. There's a little mix of everything, right? And the main thing with this is these potatoes are gonna have a lot of flavor, okay? So I wanna taste them. The rosemary, wow. So good. Now, you can see the rosemary that's on here? When you eat it now, it's crunchy. It just blends with everything. The butter, the olive oil, the potato, it blends together, and it makes for an amazing side dish. So when you're ready at this point, you put your potatoes in like this. Now, another secret, if you're doing this for a party and you're making a bunch of other stuff, put these like this in a baking dish, okay? And that baking dish, just leave it out at room temperature. When you're ready to do the dinner, you pop it in the oven with everything else for 5 minutes just to warm them through, but you've already sauteed them crispy. They're already beautiful. Look at those. Incredible. So I hope you enjoyed it. Super simple side dish. Rosemary potatoes. Make sure you come back to my kitchen soon. I'm Chef Dean Max. Leave questions or comments below. I'll be happy to answer anything out for you. Okay, I'll see you back soon.